Beach plans are on hold right now for thousands of Americans due to some very bad water conditions, rather. There are warnings in some places.
Florida's coastline has always been a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary meet. Tourists come for the sun and surf. Fishers scan the horizon for signs of life below the surface. And scientists quietly monitor one of the most complex marine ecosystems in the world. On a calm morning that looked no different from thousands before it, routine underwater surveying revealed something that no one expected. Within hours, federal and state authorities ordered a sudden closure of several Florida beaches, sealing off access to wide stretches of shoreline. What began as a quiet discovery beneath the waves turned into a national talking point driven by uncertainty, concern, and the unsettling realization that something unfamiliar had been found where millions of people swim each year. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The initial discovery happened during a scheduled marine survey conducted by a joint team of oceanographers and environmental monitoring specialists. Their mission was not dramatic. They were mapping changes in the seafloor caused by seasonal currents and checking on coral and seagrass health. Sonar readings began to show an unusual formation resting on the seabed several miles offshore. It was not shaped like a shipwreck or reef, and it did not match any geological pattern typical of the area. At first, the anomaly was dismissed as a glitch in the imaging equipment, but repeated scans produced the same results. A dense, irregular mass appeared to be embedded in the sand, stretching far wider than expected and displaying unusual reflective properties. Divers were deployed to visually confirm what the instruments suggested. What they encountered raised immediate red flags. The object did not resemble natural rock or coral, and it did not appear to be debris from known maritime accidents. Its surface had a texture that looked smooth in some areas and sharply angular in others, and it emitted faint readings that interfered with electronic devices brought close to it. The divers reported a subtle but persistent vibration in the surrounding water, something not associated with normal underwater formations. These observations prompted a rapid escalation in response, moving the situation out of the realm of routine science and into national security and public safety. The decision to close Florida beaches came swiftly after preliminary assessments were shared with state authorities. Officials cited an abundance of caution, emphasizing the need to protect both the public and the environment until the nature of the underwater find could be determined. Patrol boats and helicopters moved into position along the coast and barriers went up at beach access points. For many residents and visitors, the closures felt sudden and unexplained. Beachgoers who arrived expecting a normal day were instead greeted by warnings and restricted areas, fueling speculation almost immediately. What made the situation more intense was the lack of clear information. Authorities confirmed only that an unidentified object had been located offshore and that it posed potential risks. This absence of detail created space for fear and imagination to fill the gap. Some wondered if it was a forgotten military device, while others speculated about industrial waste or an unknown natural phenomenon. The fact that modern technology had not immediately identified the object made it feel more unsettling. People tend to trust that satellites, databases, and advanced sensors can explain most things. So when they fail, it challenges that sense of security. Scientists involved in the investigation focused first on determining whether the object was biological, geological, or artificial. Samples taken from the surrounding sediment revealed chemical compositions that did not neatly align with known marine materials. Trace elements were present in unusual ratios, and the area around the object showed signs of disruption, as if something heavy had recently settled there or had been partially buried and then exposed by shifting currents. This raised questions about how long it had been there and whether it had arrived recently or had remained hidden for years beneath layers of sand. One of the most concerning implications of the find was its potential impact on marine life. Florida's waters are home to dolphins, sea turtles, manatees, and countless fish species, many of which are already under stress from pollution and climate change. Early observations indicated that some fish were avoiding the area entirely, while others appeared disoriented near the site. This behavioral change suggested that whatever lay beneath the surface might be affecting the surrounding ecosystem in subtle but significant ways. Environmental groups quickly called for transparency and urged authorities to treat the discovery as both a scientific puzzle and an ecological risk. Another implication lay in the realm of public safety. Beaches are not just recreational spaces. They are economic engines for Florida. Closing them disrupts tourism, local businesses, and entire communities that depend on steady foot traffic. Hotels, restaurants, and rental services felt the impact almost immediately. More importantly, the closure signaled that the unknown object was considered potentially dangerous. Whether through radiation, chemical leakage, or structural instability, the idea that something harmful might be lurking offshore unsettled both residents and visitors. Military and security agencies also became involved, which added another layer of gravity to the situation. Unidentified underwater objects can sometimes be remnants of old naval exercises or lost equipment, but the lack of matching records made this explanation uncertain. The object's unusual readings and structure meant it could not be quickly classified as a conventional device. This raised the possibility that it was something newly arrived or previously undiscovered, forcing authorities to consider scenarios that ranged from accidental dumping to deliberate placement. The discovery also highlighted how little of the ocean floor is truly known. Despite advanced mapping technologies, vast areas remain poorly charted. Florida's coastal waters have been studied extensively compared to many other regions. Yet, this find managed to escape notice until now. That fact alone carried significant implications. It suggested that other unknown objects or formations might exist elsewhere, undetected and unmonitored, potentially posing risks or offering insights into natural processes that have yet to be understood. Public reaction evolved quickly from confusion to fascination. Social media filled with images of closed beaches and speculation about what lay beneath the waves. The mysterious nature of the find made it a symbol of uncertainty in an age when most things feel mapped and explained. People debated whether it represented a technological hazard, a natural anomaly, or something entirely different. This fascination revealed a deeper cultural response to the unknown. There is a mix of fear and curiosity that surfaces whenever something defies easy explanation, especially when it appears in a familiar place like a popular beach. For scientists, the implications were both exciting and daunting. If the object turned out to be a rare geological formation, it could reshape understanding of coastal processes. If it was artificial, it raised questions about human activity beneath the ocean and how much is left unaccounted for. Either way, it underscored the importance of sustained ocean research and monitoring. The closure of beaches was not just a safety measure, but also a protective step to prevent interference with ongoing investigations. The economic implications also pointed to how tightly human life is linked to the natural environment. A single unexplained find underwater was enough to halt tourism in multiple areas. This dependence means that any disruption in the marine ecosystem can ripple outward into human systems. The beaches represent leisure and livelihood at the same time, and the closure illustrated how fragile that balance can be when confronted with uncertainty. The situation also raised questions about preparedness. If an unknown object could appear offshore without immediate explanation, how ready are authorities to handle similar discoveries in the future? The response showed coordination between environmental agencies, local governments, and federal authorities, but it also exposed the limits of existing protocols. Most emergency plans focus on storms, oil spills, or known hazards. An unidentified underwater anomaly does not fit neatly into these categories, requiring improvised decision-making and cautious judgment. Culturally, the event tapped into long-standing narratives about the ocean as a frontier. Space often dominates discussions about the unknown, but this discovery reminded people that Earth still holds mysteries just beneath its surface. The idea that something unusual could exist in waters frequented by swimmers and surfers made the ocean feel less predictable and more alive with hidden stories. It challenged assumptions that modern technology has rendered the planet fully understood. The closure of beaches also shifted attention to the relationship between humans and their environment. Beaches are seen as static places, but they're actually dynamic interfaces between land and sea. The mysterious underwater find emphasize that what happens offshore can directly affect what happens on shore. This connection often goes unnoticed until something disrupts it. In this case, the disruption came not from a storm or spill, but from an object that did not belong to any known category. The implications extended into policy and governance as well. Decisions about public access, research funding, and environmental protection suddenly carried more weight. If the object proved harmful, it could lead to stricter monitoring of coastal waters. If it turned out to be harmless but unusual, it could still influence how future anomalies are treated. The event forced authorities to confront the tension between transparency and caution. Sharing too little information risked public distrust, while sharing too much before understanding the situation risked panic. The discovery also raised philosophical questions about uncertainty. Modern societies often operate on the assumption that risks can be quantified and managed. An unidentified underwater find disrupts that logic because it introduces variables that cannot yet be measured. This creates a space where fear can grow, but also where learning can occur. The response to such a discovery becomes a test of how well institutions can handle the unknown without overreacting or underestimating potential danger. For Florida, a state shaped by its coastline, the event struck close to home. The beaches are part of its identity, a symbol of openness and escape. Closing them because of something unseen beneath the water challenged that image. It suggested that even the most familiar landscapes can hold surprises that demand respect and caution. This shift in perception may linger, altering how people think about coastal safety and the hidden dimensions of marine environments. The mysterious underwater find also hinted at broader environmental implications. If it affected marine life behavior, it could signal subtle changes in underwater conditions that have not yet been noticed. Such changes might be linked to larger patterns, such as shifting currents or chemical imbalances. The object itself could be a symptom rather than a cause, pointing to processes that are reshaping the seafloor in ways that remain poorly understood. The sudden closure of beaches demonstrated how a localized discovery can have national resonance. News spread quickly, not because the beaches themselves were unique, but because the reason for their closure was unknown. The mystery made it compelling. People far from Florida found themselves invested in the question of what had been found underwater. This reaction revealed how stories of the unknown still capture collective attention, especially when they intersect with everyday places. Attention increasingly turned toward the scientific challenge of classification. An object that resists immediate identification forces researchers to revisit the frameworks they use to understand underwater environments. Normally, anything found on the seafloor is quickly sorted into one of a few broad categories: natural formation, biological structure, or human-made debris. This discovery did not fit cleanly into any of them. Its contours suggested deliberate shape, yet there was no evidence of cutting tools or construction marks. Its composition showed signs of mineralization, but not in patterns consistent with coral growth or sediment layering. This ambiguity complicated every decision that followed, because without knowing what it was, experts could not confidently predict how it might behave over time. One of the most pressing implications involved the chemistry of the surrounding water. Preliminary sensor data hinted at localized changes in salinity and temperature near the site.